Shall we?
Shall we? Yes.
Okay. So I've got the first item on the agenda regarding the learning how to build things inside of CNG, which contributes to our current OKR of learning how we want to build a system for independent deployments. I had a discussion with Jason Plum last week, and he expressed how busy the distribution team currently is. They've had a lot of their OKRs that were scheduled for this particular quarter have been rescheduled or pushed out because of a lot of the interrupt work that has come their way due to various compliance things that are being raised to their team. Because of this, I don't see them being able to readily provide us the necessary support that we need in order to make the necessary contributions to CNG to make it work for us. So in order to combat this, I've created a secondary issue and kind of replaced the initial one. The initial issue was geared towards, let's figure out what we could do to CNG to make our builds as efficient as possible. Because that requires us to work with distribution, and because they're quite busy, I don't see that being worked on effectively and being something we could successfully do this quarter. So what I've decided to do is create a secondary issue where we kind of just learn how CNG operates as it is today and figure out what capabilities exist that enable us to minimally get a build sent to CNG and figure out how to get the data that we want out of it. And then from there, we could drive conversations with distribution for upcoming quarters as to what we want to see, and help guide their work for improving CNG as necessary. They've already got a lot of epics and issues that are circling around making CNG more effective and efficient in general. There's even a rapid action group because because of the GitLab or GitLab CI project takes a long time, and CNG does contribute to that pipeline. So they've already got various issues around efficiency and driving the effectiveness for that project. I think if we figure out and learn CNG, we could help drive what we want to see out of it in the future, which I think this would be a good opportunity to take advantage of. So I just picked up this new issue that I created. So far, I'm kind of just learning the ropes of CNG as it stands. I've already got a documentation update, merge requests sent their direction because there's some documentation slightly out of date. I'm going to see what it looks like to start building things in CNG. So far, I've effectively cloned this repo into staging, and I'm going to leverage staging to build things for me. That way I don't have to worry about storage, because CNG makes a lot of images, so it uses a lot of repository storage in the back end. And I cannot use preprod. Well, I guess I could use preprod for this, but I don't want to. I don't want to create another production clone or fork of this project. So I'm going to use staging just for testing. Why not? And I'm going to go from there. So I don't have anything to demo related to this because this is something that I just started working on. I'm hoping maybe the next time we have this meeting, I'll have something more concrete to either showcase or at least indicate, what we could do with CNG at that moment in time. So unless anybody has any specific questions, I'm not really sure what else to say about it.
Thank you, Skarbek. I'm actually very interested in understanding. I've seen this demo, so looking forward to that. Do you need any help from anyone else in system or also orchestration for that?
At the moment, no. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to create a lot of documentation updates inside of CNG. So what I might do is if I see something that is questionable, or maybe there's something I'm not confident on, obviously I'll send it to distribution for review, but maybe I'll send it to one of us here in systems to be like, hey, can you just review this documentation, see if it makes sense, etc. That way I'm just not working in isolation on this, just as another method to share the information that I get out of this as I learn. So no, I'm not blocked, just a matter of time and effort at this point.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I think probably like maybe next week. I think it's gonna be a good point to start to discuss, to take a bit, put a bit of scope within this POC that we want to do as part of the OKR related to this issue, right? So we don't have to do anything big, but at least it's good to have some ideas of what we can put together to showcase the value that we built in this OKR so far and try to connect the dots. So I'm gonna put this one probably at a discussion point already for next week, already today after this call. So if you have food for thoughts, feel free to add it already in a sync way and we can discuss it further next week. Thank you. Thank you very much. Ahmad, the stage is yours.
Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon to Mikiri. I wanted to showcase the fourth cluster, part of the cluster reconstruction and G-staging. It's a very brief demo, but I wanted to touch point with something happening right now with the workloads getting deployed at the moment. Let me share my screen, and please let me know when you can see it. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me get into the fourth cluster. kubectl GitL pods. As you can see, there is some workloads on the fourth cluster. I tried to deploy the monitoring, but we have an issue happening there, which is the external secrets are not syncing yet. Basically, we have Vault as a centralized secret management, and the endpoint that we talk to is actually an internal endpoint. So basically, the syncing cannot really happening at the moment. I'm in talk with Felipe and basically trying to get around this, how we can basically log into to it. He told me like they are working on getting it out of the peer VPC, so they can so we can talk to this endpoint and sync the secrets, and then can have these pods here working because Prometheus is not working at the moment. But this is just for the monitoring part. I think I can basically skip this and continue deploying the other charts until this is fixed. And yeah, like deployment of workloads is basically in process right now. Hopefully, yeah, by end of this week we are in like in a good spot because like we have multiple repositories to deploy, GitLab com, GitLab Helm files, and Tanka deployments. So
Which of those three have you been successful with, or which one? I guess Helm Files is the one that contains the monitoring infrastructure. So that one looks like you've got everything except Prometheus. What about the Tanka deployments or Tonka?
yeah, Tanka is not. I didn't work with it yet, so I'm gonna start with Tanka deployments, and hopefully it's gonna be easy. Let's see.
It's all JSON, so it should be easy, right?
Yeah. So, any questions?
I have one question. Maybe I didn't fully understand before, right? So is the bringing Vault outside of VPC peering just to be able to speak into it is going to be like a long-term solution for us, or is going to be just to enable you to deploy that?
Actually, the thing is, this endpoint is accessible through GitLab runners, the ops runner from the ops instance.
Yes.
So if we actually, and because we have VPC peering with most of the clusters, including this cluster, it should be working, but it's not working. Maybe there is some firewall issues. So
the reason is this cluster because it's new.
it's new. VPC peering is working. I believe because we set it up via Terraform. So I'm not sure yet if it's VPC peering issue or firewall issue. I would need to investigate this. But Felipe like pointed out that this endpoint is actually internal. It doesn't work from anywhere except the ops instance. So I'm like, we are basically investigating this to see actually what's the issue there.
Okay, I think it's actually pretty important, because if tomorrow we go to having one-click thing, I think we need to get this sorted out, right?
Yeah.
Situations or opening any VPC rings somewhere. So I guess is totally relevant to what we are doing right now in this investigation, Ahmad.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
thank you for that.
Akbar, I do have this is a premature question, but I thought I
Sure.
would ask it anyways, just because you've been primarily working on this. If you were to provide a confidence level for how much effort it would take to provide us a one-click, give us a cluster that we could deploy to. We don't have workloads working yet, we could just deploy a cluster. What would be your confidence level today on that capability? Because I know you struggled a little bit, so I'm kind of curious as to what strides we've made to improve that situation.
Thanks to you and to other people like Philippe and Pierre, we actually fixed most of the issues. So creating a new cluster is a matter of copy-paste the module to create this cluster, and it's going to be there. However, it depends on the region, because I believe we used to have only one region, US East 1, before, and having a new region for this is, yeah, sometimes it's tricky. But I believe it's doable. It's basically just, I don't know, 10 minutes, copy paste thing, and it's gonna be there because we fixed most of the issues.
Cool. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one question. That's probably due to my ignorance. So please
No,
bear with me.
please go ahead.
So you just mentioned that the problem mainly was like to get the new zone or the new region. You understand?
Yeah.
And so this is a guess anywhere, not on the reliability side, right? In this part. Are we considering this? I mean, how much effort would be to automate that?
The issue we have with the regions is we have hard-coded region or defaulting to region US East 1. We have this as default for in most of the, I believe it's not just one place, but multiple repositories. As I talked with Felipe, he and Pierre are actually responsible for refactoring Terraform modules and stuff at the moment. So they are basically working on such things to make it that we are not bound to just one region. I mean, we are not bound to actually one region, but some modules just have, defaulting to one region. But for now, if we want to have a new cluster with a different region, it's easy because we fixed the issue, as I said. So it's just like it depends on the modules we are going to use.
Okay, and is work that right now to make these a bit more configurable and not hard-coded, the region thing is ongoing from reliability side?
No, the region thing is like, as I said, like it's done, sort of, to create a new cluster.
Yeah.
If you want to create a new cluster in Kubernetes, you can create it in whatever zone you want. My point is maybe, I don't know, like because I tried only one region, maybe we can test with a different region in a different place to see actually if there will be any issues or not.
Okay, I mean let's keep it for as extra scope at the end. Let's see.
Sure.
How much time we have, because in any case we probably have to do also test our run book right at the end and see when it's going to work. Then maybe there we could consider to test that run book in a different region and see if we surface any problem. This could be also something that we could use for a next iteration of the work you're doing right now.
Sure. One thing comes to mind is actually when we use a new region is we are limited by quotas from GCP, so we definitely talks to like we will talk to GCP to basically increase the quotas for the resources basically.
Okay.
Another thing that came to mind that we should be considering, like in the future, like this is after we've got a runbook and probably after we've tested that runbook, like maybe next quarter probably. Right now, we reserve a lot of static IP addresses via Terraform, and those end up getting hard-coded into Arcade's workloads repository and probably others, I would imagine, especially for the Prometheus and Thanos endpoints. And then even more so, those same IP addresses end up getting hard-coded inside of our HA proxy configurations. So there's a lot of work that happens manually after a cluster is created that we could work on to make simplifying deploying overall a lot easier. Like I know right now our target is to create a cluster as quickly as possible. I would like for us to consider for the upcoming OKRs how we could make one-click cluster and deploy all the things to it. And allow it to receive traffic, which would enforce us to try to figure out what to automate in terms of getting those IP addresses, shoving them into HA proxy appropriately, as well as the case workloads configurations too.
Thank you, Skarbek. Yeah, that would be extremely useful. I didn't think about all these parts. So that's actually this is actually another level automation that we have to build on top of what we just did, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
accepting traffic is gonna be tricky because right now all of the work we have done, like, not related to accepting traffic.
I think if we could identify how to quickly build clusters, we have the ability to enable the reliability team to rebuild things as quickly as they desire, because we already know there's changes we want to our clusters as they stand. Like the networking is not well defined for our zonal clusters, for example. We want to remove Calico and replace it with Data Plane V2, which requires a cluster rebuild. And there's at least one other option, I forget what it is, but it also requires a complete rebuild of the cluster that I've heard talked about. Having that will just make a lot of things easier. Luckily, like as long as we're rebuilding an existing cluster, we don't need to touch IP addresses because they're all part of the same zone region. The configuration's also the same. But if we want to expand to new regions and such, stuff like this would be a lot more important to think about.
Thank you. Anything else we want to discuss today?
The only thing I've got is something we could say for not being recorded.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording there.